Around the World in 80 Days was released in 1956 and it picked up the Best Picture Academy Award in 1957. It was made essentially by the sheer power of will by producer Michael Todd, a man who had never produced movies before this and never did since. It basically a labour of love, a passion project. This is a guy who'd produced a lot of theatre, had been very successful producing a lot of theatre shows, and had made a bit of a reputation for himself. He was the kind of guy who could smooth talk any room, from what I gather. Looking into the history behind this guy, he had a dream of making a film and he just went ahead and did it, and he didn't let anyone tell him that he couldn't. A couple of years later, he's standing on the podium picking up the award, the Academy Award for Best Picture. So yeah, whether or not he deserves that award is a different matter. My personal opinion is no, it doesn't. But I do appreciate a lot about this film. So obviously it's based on the novel by Jules Verne, a very famous novel about this rich man, this city club man, stiff upper lip, British kind of toff, who's very particular about time, and he has a bet basically with the rest of his club friends that he could circumnavigate the globe in 80 days. They say hell no, he says hell yes, and that's it. He goes off on his journey and does it. What this film basically amounts to is a prefabricated wildlife documentary. Only the wildlife is humanity. So yeah, it's essentially a greatest hits of cultures. But the stereotypes lifted from those cultures. If you think about the stereotypical images of what you would have expected from like Spain and Japan and America and all these different places around the world back when this film was made, then that's essentially what we get. And for someone who's never travelled the world, this might be a very interesting film for you to kind of take in different cultures without ever stepping outside of your house. And that's kind of how it plays. That's what it feels like. It's very repetitive. It's very episodic. We land in a different place. We have a little mini adventure in which they get into a scrape. And Phileas Fogg, played by David Niven, this man who made the bet, he's decided to travel the world. He has this companion, this Mexican guy who's very skilled at all manner of things. And what it boils down to is, they get into a scrape, and then this little man kind of does his thing to get them out of the scrape. Sometimes not necessarily intentionally, but he proves himself to be a very capable man, a very capable sidekick. And that's it. It's that on repeat, multiple times for 3 hours. And while that is fun to a certain extent, it gets a little bit dull. It gets to a point where you're like, actually, this didn't need to be 3 hours. They told the story that they needed to tell essentially within the first hour and a half, but then they just wanted to keep on going. Because it's like, what other culture can we go into? What other culture can we bring to the masses? And that really does feel like about the sum total of it. What is particularly outstanding about this production, and again, credit to Todd for pulling it off, because this was an independently produced film, essentially. It made through the Hollywood system, but produced independently. Calling in favours, this, that and the other. But what I really did appreciate about it was the production design, the technical aspects of it. There are moments when, we will go through a street. The costumes, the detail, the number of extras, we have a roaming camera going through these streets, and we have people just littering the streets. It feels like they've literally just stuck the camera on the horse and cart and just drove through the streets. The attention to the production detail, all that kind of stuff, is really on point. Couldn't fault the film in that regard. It's just, as is often the case with things like this, it really does have to boil down to the story and the dialogue, the characters. And while I find some of these characters fun, I do also find some of them annoying. While I do at times find the story to be a fun adventure, I do find it to be a little bit long in the tooth, a little bit repetitive, and that's about it, really. So yeah, there are certain sections I enjoy more than others. I enjoyed the Spain section primarily because of there's a sequence in there with these Spanish dancers. This guy gets up on this table and starts doing a bit of Spanish dancing, the tap dancing and all that. And it's a form of dancing that I've always appreciated. Love it. I could watch it all day. When you see these Spanish dancers with their taps on and they're just going for it with that, the rapid fire guitar, kind of acoustic guitar. It's just, I love watching that stuff. It's hypnotic. If you're going to hypnotize me, stick a Spanish dancer in front of me and just get them to do their thing. Yeah, as I say, it's completely irrespective of the fact that it doesn't really matter to the story. Just as a sequence, it pulled me in. I was entertained by it. So there's a few other little bits like that where all of a sudden my eyes liven up, my ears prick up, and I'm like, oh, this is fun, this is entertaining. But again, only in so much as it is a window into a part of the world that I might never get to visit. It feels like a tourist video, greatest hits tourist video, just shot on a really large budget. Some stereotypes, like the Native American stereotypes that you watch it now and it's cringe, really cringe, and you're just like, okay. Cimarron was really like lambasted, or it is today at any rate. Not certainly not when it came out, but Cimarron it is currently lambasted for its portrayal of Native Americans and this, that, and the other. But I actually think it did a better job than this film does. It has a more sympathetic eye to Native Americans than this film does. This is one of those films as well that is absolutely littered with cameos, like Frank Sinatra, Marlene Dietrich, Peter Lorre, all these people who back when this film came out were like huge stars, but anyone like under the age of, I don't know, 25 right now, if they watched it, they'd be like, yeah, no clue. So you get these moments where random characters just turn around and look at the camera and you're like, are they going to say anything? No? Okay, well that was a bit of a weird look. Just by the way it's framed, even if you don't know that person, just by looking at the frame that, okay, that person was important. Back in 1956, that was someone of great import. Don't know who it is, but fine, whatever, just roll with it. I talked a little bit about the stereotypical Native Americans, but we get Shirley MacLaine playing an Indian. Not a Native American Indian, but an Indian, as in from India. Simply taking Shirley MacLaine and sticking a dot on her head does not in any way make her Indian. But okay. This was 1956. They got away with things in 1956. All right, whatever. I like Shirley MacLaine as much as the next guy, but yeah, even that didn't sit well with me, to be perfectly honest. But amusing more than anything. It's a solid adventure. It's fun at times, but it's too long. It's too repetitive, and that's that. It didn't deserve Best Picture. It deserved some awards. Don't get me wrong, but it didn't deserve Best Picture. So there you go. Have you seen Around the World in 80 Days? And if so, what did you think about it? Please leave your comments down below. Let me know your thoughts on the film. Thank you for watching this review, and until next time, cracking.